I am going to introduce our first speaker, Marvel of Charities Housing. If you would please take it away.
Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Marvel Ang. I'm a project manager at Charities Housing. And here today with me also is Joe Head and Lisa Caldwell. And I'll let them introduce themselves. We start with you, Joe.
Thank you, Marvel. I've been with Charities Housing for about 1.5 years, and my particular part of the work on behalf of Charities is to find new sites for us to build affordable communities. So I worked on researching the property we'll talk to you about, placing it in escrow, and then I assist Marvel and other members of our staff in working through the approvals needed by the city of San Jose. I guess Lisa?
My name is Lisa Caldwell. I've been with Charities Housing for a little over 1 year. I'm the Director of Property Management, and I oversee the team. Catholic Charities develops and manages its own property. So I oversee the team that oversees the properties, the day-to-day operations, and manages all of our properties.
Great, thanks, Joe and Lisa. So we have a presentation prepared, so I'll try and share my screen. Let me see. How's that? Can everyone see that? Okay, great. Let's see if I can move this. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's get started. So let's see, there we go. So we'll start with some company background on us, Charities Housing. So here on the slide, you can see our mission is to develop, preserve, own, and manage affordable homes for low-income individuals and their families. Through service-enhanced property management and structured resident involvement, Charities Housing contributes to the highest standard of human dignity and participation in our community. So most of our developments are affordable rentals. And I just want to highlight and repeat, we build our properties and then we own and manage them. We manage all of our properties except for one. What that really means is we're in it for the long haul. We become part of the community where we build. We take pride in managing our buildings, maintaining them throughout their entire service life, and providing affordable homes for all of our residents and creating a great environment for them and their families. Charities Housing has over 25 years of experience in affordable housing. Originally was an affiliate of Catholic Charities of Santa Clara County, then incorporated in 1993. Still has ties with Catholic Charities as they provide all the resident services for our properties. And at the bottom here, you can see an overview of our portfolio. We have 33 properties in operation, totaling 1,428 units. 3 under construction currently that'll add 253 units, 6 properties in entitlements that will be 889 more units, and then 5 under contract that we estimate would be about 1,050 units. So affordable housing, what does that mean? How does it work? So again, all of our properties are affordable. So how it works is the units will be restricted based on a certain area median income percentage. Meaning that, residents that want to live in our units need to make less than a certain amount of money annually. And then the rents are restricted based on the AMI restrictions tied to the unit and the unit size. So that's how the rents are affordable, are below market rate, and go to those that, are in need and meet those criteria. Our units, the income and rents are restricted then for at least 55 years after the project is complete. And our properties, our units are typically restricted for 30 to 50% AMI. So what does that mean in numbers? The table on the left is a breakdown of the annual income for 30 to 50% AMI households. So this is based on Santa Clara County and the number of people in your household. So just an example, if a 4-person household wanted to live in one of our 30% AMI units, their annual income would need to be less than $49,700. So these are this year's numbers. New numbers come out every year. The table on the right is the rent ranges for our units based on the AMI restrictions. So 30 to 50% AMI is what's shown here. So, you know, a 2-bedroom restricted at 30% AMI, the rent then would be $1,021 a month. To give all that some context, the graphic on the right are some of the most common jobs in the San Jose area and their average annual income. And this just to place it on the AMI scale, you know, based on a 1-person household. So if someone is working full-time in San Jose, minimum wage, which is $15.45 an hour, they would make you know, a little more than $32,000 a year, not including any overtime or anything. So they would be under 30% AMI for a 1-person household and would then qualify for a 30% AMI unit. So this gives you an idea of some of the jobs that would qualify for our units. And again, this is based on household size. So there's another example, if a nurse making $77,000 a year in a 3-person household, they would be just under 50% AMI and then would qualify for a 50% AMI unit. This pie chart here breaks down all of our units as they're restricted by AMI percent. So as you can see, 25% of our units are between 0 to 30% AMI, inclusive of 30%. Then 71% of our units are between 30 to 50% AMI. That's exclusive of 30% and inclusive of 50%. And then just 4% are above 50% to 80% AMI. So as you can see, the vast majority of our units are restricted to 0 to 50% AMI and serve, you know, those households. And this bar chart here is a breakdown of the households that live in our communities. The x-axis, the axis down here is a breakdown of AMI percent, and these are different buckets. So this one is 0 to 10% AMI, and this bar here is indicating how many households that fall within that bucket. So just about a little more than 250 households in our communities are between 0 and 10% AMI. 450 households are between 10 and 20% AMI, and you know, a little bit more than 200 are between 20 and 30% AMI. So this here is about 950 households that are between 0 and 30% AMI living in our communities. There's about 250 households between 30 and 50% AMI. So the vast majority, again, are households between 0 and 50% AMI. This is something, you know, we're very proud of, to be able to provide housing for all these folks. So our portfolio. This map is shows all our properties, either in operation or in the works throughout the South Bay area. And as you can see, we have properties all over the place. We have 1 under construction in San Carlos, 2 in Mountain View, and another one in works there. 4 in Sunnyvale, 2 in Cupertino, 3 in Campbell, 5 in Los Gatos, 4 in Santa Clara with 2 more underway, 2 in Milpitas, and 11 in operation in San Jose, and you know, a handful more in the works. And we are all over San Jose in districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. And then this is the project we're talking about today. It's 2920, 2928 Alum Rock. So next several slides are examples of some of our projects, starting with Pensione Esperanza. This one completed in 1999, one of our oldest projects. It's 3 stories, 110 studio units with affordability range of 30 to 40% AMI. Serves homeless and other special needs households. And as you can see, you know, it's over 22 years old. It's still affordable and, you know, still maintaining running well. This is San Antonio Place, a project in Mountain View, completed in 2006. It's 3 stories, 120 studio units, 40 reserved for permanently supportive housing, affordability between 15 to 45% AMI. This next project is actually on Alum Rock, a little bit closer downtown than our subject property. It's Sunset Square. We acquired this property in 2001. Before then, it was affordable housing, and when we acquired it, we were able to preserve it as affordable housing and prevent it from becoming market rate. Then we renovated it in 2003 and 2007. It's 3 stories, 96 family units, and affordability range between 30 to 60% AMI. This project also is right off Alum Rock, Home Safe San Jose. It's off Kentucky Place, actually. This was completed in 2002. It's 2 stories, 24 units of co-housing for survivors of domestic violence, and an affordability range between 25% and 45% AMI. Kings Crossing Apartments, this one is in San Jose as well. It was completed in 2012. It's 4 stories, 94 multifamily apartments, 6 reserved for PSH. Again, that's permanently supportive housing, and affordability range between 45 to 55% AMI. This one was completed in conjunction with the San Jose Family Shelter, as the idea was transitioning folks from the shelter into this property here. Parkside Studios, this property is in Sunnyvale, completed in 2015. It's 3 stories, 58 units, 18 reserved for PSH, 30 to 50% AMI restrictions. It was actually the first affordable modular development in Northern California, and you can see one of the modules being hoisted in place here on the bottom right. Met North and Met South, another project in San Jose, a little bit more recent, completed in 2018. It's 4 stories, 102 multifamily units, and affordability range between 30 to 60% AMI. This one is in Cupertino, the Veranda, completed in 2019. This one's 3 stories, 18 studio units, 6 reserved for PSH, affordability between 30 to 50% AMI. And this was actually the first development to be funded and completed with Measure A bond funding. So a little fun fact there. Renascent Place, this one is in San Jose. It was completed last year. It's 4 stories, 160 studio units. This is actually the only property we don't manage ourselves because of its size and population. It's 100% PSH. And all the residents receive Project 8 vouchers and supportive services. This is one of our newest projects. It's under construction right now. It's on Page Street in San Jose. We're hoping it'll be done by August of 2022. It's 5 stories, 81 studio units, 27 reserved for PSH, 10 for developmental disabilities. The affordability range will be 30 to 50% AMI. And the PSH units will receive Section 8 vouchers. This is another project we just started under construction right now, Blossom Hill Road in San Jose. Anticipated completion date, March 2023. This is a 4-story senior project. There'll be 147 units, 30 to 50% AMI. The ground floor will include 16,000 square feet of commercial space, and the PSH units, which is a third of the project, will receive Section 8 vouchers. So this is another project in the works right now. It's 1860 Alum Rock, just up the road or down the road towards downtown. We're hoping it'll be in construction sometime next year and completed by 2024. It's a large family project, meaning 50% of the units will be 2 and 3 bedrooms. There's 60 total units, 30 to 50% AMI. 50% of the units will be at 30% AMI for rapid rehousing. There's 3,000 square feet of commercial space fronting Alum Rock on the ground floor, and we're excited to have Amigos de Guadalupe take over that space. We're in partnership with them, and they provide great services for the community centering around education, housing, immigration, and health. So we're really excited for that. So on all our properties, we strive to provide, many sustainable features. Some of those include solar panels on the roof for electricity, or for hot water. Recently, we've committed to 100% electric buildings, metering faucets to save water, drought-tolerant plants throughout our landscaping, providing bike parking and promoting alternative transportation modes, and using sustainable floorings and finishes in our units and throughout the building. And then I'll hand it off to Lisa, who will talk about the resident services.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So as Marvel had mentioned at the beginning, that Catholic Charities provides the resident services at the majority of our properties. And what they do is they actually, we partner with them. And as you can see on the slide here, they offer resident service coordination. So they do everything that ranges from one-on-one meeting with the tenant to help them, such as filling out an application, obtaining help with Social Security, in-home support services. So they work with them that way on one-on-one, but then they also offer classes and other educational information to our tenants. They're really there to provide the resources, like they will help, they will assist, but they really provide the resources. So for example, if someone came in and had lost their job, they would give them resources of places to where to look for a new job, how to apply for a new job, and then help them build their resume. So those are the kind of services that they offer. And again, that's at all of our sites, and they're catered to the sites. So if we have a senior site, their services are more catered to the needs of seniors, and for family sites, they're more catered to the needs of families. I think that's, and then I'll just take the next step. This is the application process. So when we get closer, it's kind of too early now to get in too much details, but as we get closer to the project coming online, we will create a tenant selection criteria based on the funding sources, and partners with building this property to come up with our tenant selection criteria, which outlines the criteria for tenancy. And in that, when we start that, we will do marketing as well. And we advertise in the local papers. We work with local agencies to advertise. And we advertise on our website as well. So the whole process starts with, we advertise that we'll be opening up a wait list a couple weeks prior to actually opening up the wait list. And then we open up the wait list and we take names, and that averages for probably about 2 weeks. We keep a wait list open, it depends. And then after that's done, we usually do it on a lottery system. So what that means is that we open up the wait list for 2 weeks and say we get 3,000 names. We only need like 500. So we do a lottery, and then all the names will be shuffled and assigned numbers. We do a lottery to narrow that down. And then we start doing interviews off of that wait list in order of the lottery number. And we'll meet with staff and fill out all the required paperwork. We do background checks, income. These projects are affordable housing, so you do have to be income verified. And I saw that there was a lot of questions in the chat about what AMI is, and that's the area median income. And the reason that you're hearing that we have 30%, 40%, or 50% AMI, what that means is that the person who applies for that AMI unit needs to qualify under a certain amount of income. So 50% AMI is the AMI is the area median income. So what you do is you take the area that you're looking to lease the units at, and there's a number, they're all published, as she showed them, that what they say the average income is for households in that area. And then they break it down into like a 30%. So what is 30% of the income, 40%. And then that's how we fill the units and qualify people based on those AMIs. And then the next step is the people we would schedule the move-ins and work with everybody once they get in to hopefully have successful housing.
Thanks, Lisa. So, all right, 2920, 2928 Alum Rock, we're all here to talk about or hear about. So Joe, I'll let you take next slide here.
Thank you, Marvel. So our objective when we in looking for property has primarily been focused on providing family-centered housing, and we were specifically looking for a family-centered site in the District 5 community. The site we are discussing with you this evening and presenting to you, from our perspective, had a very strong number of amenities that we would like to be able to provide to our tenants. First of all, it is there is a major high school immediately across the street, and both elementary schools to the south. You can see Lindale Elementary on the map, and there's elementary schools to the north. Those are in either walking distance or very close driving distance, making it convenient for families to have good access to the schools. There's, as you well know, there's a major library right at the corner, a new one and really beautifully done. There's significant transportation. Alum Rock Avenue has 2 major bus routes that go all the way up to Palo Alto, serving almost the entire county of Santa Clara. One, a regular timed bus lot or timed bus route, and the other an express one, both serving all the way up to the Palo Alto area, which goes through a significant amount of employment opportunities for the residents. Emergency services are really highlighted directly across the street with the major fire station, and grocery and shopping, including drugstores and major grocery stores, are just south on White Road. So from our perspective, this property is positioned to well serve the residents, as the area is already a very prime District 5 location. We have placed into escrow 2 properties immediately adjacent to each other. One is the former Taco Bell site, which is currently vacant and not used, and the other is the site just to the west of that, where the Omelet House is. The site is narrow on its frontage on Alum Rock, and has much more depth to it. So the major effect of the project that we will build will be distributed to our 2 neighbors on Alum Rock, rather than have a heavy presence to the neighbors to the south. And I think with that, Marvel, I'll let you get into the building itself.
Thanks, Joe. And this is just a view from the street. This, I believe, was Taco Bell, and this was the Omelet House, right, Joe?
Right, correct.
Was there anything else you want to say on this side, or?
I think that wraps it up, and we'll be available for questions.
Okay, thanks. So we've been working on this project for a while now, and we've gone through many concepts and studies, looking at anywhere from a 4-story building to a 7-story building, and trying to find the right projects for the site. And we recently honed in on a 5-story residential building at 60 feet in height. So this is preliminary and conceptual at this time, but we're looking at 90 to 100 units. 100% of them would be affordable, with 1 3-bedroom staff unit. The unit mix you can see here would be 25% studios, 23% 1-bedrooms, 25% 2-bedrooms, and 27 3-bedrooms. So again, a focus on families having the 2 and 3 bedrooms. 15% of the units will be ADA mobility accessible, 10% will be ADA communication accessible, and the remainder will all be ADA adaptable. So for parking, we are looking at between 60 to 90 parking spaces. I know that's a bit of a wide range, and I understand parking is can be a bit of an issue in the area. So, we're still working on these numbers, and part of my job is trying to, get that number as close to 90 or even more if possible, that works within our space and our budget. We're planning on having 75 to 100 secured bike parking stalls. So programs we'll be looking into for the project are free resident transit passes, car sharing and bike sharing programs. And the property will also have a nice community space that the residents can use, but would also be available for the neighbors for like neighborhood meetings or other community-based meetings, things of that nature. So the property will be restricted at 30 to 50% AMI. I was hoping my explanation earlier would be, I guess, a bit better. I see Lisa was saying there were some questions there. So here is a breakdown of what that means in terms of annual income in the table in the middle for 30 to 50% AMI households, depending on the household size. So these would be the income ranges our potential residents would make to qualify to live in our units. And if there's any more questions, we can go over that afterwards. The target population we're looking at, again, is large families with the sizable allocation of 2 and 3 bedrooms. We'll also look targeting recently or at-risk homeless households and generally extremely and very low income households. The ground floor will have 1,800 square feet of commercial space, and we're excited to be partnered with Community Cycles of California. They're a really great nonprofit. They sell and provide bike repairs, or sell bikes and provide bike repairs, and then they take those proceeds to provide free bikes and bike repairs to those in need. They also have a vocational program they're working on that provides paid education and training to job seekers. Their mission is, to provide economic independence for individuals facing barriers to employment. So if you don't know much about them, their website is down here at the bottom of the slide. I recommend you to check them out. They're a great organization, and we believe would provide great service to the community, surrounding the property. So this is a rendering of one of our earlier concepts that we had worked on. It was a 6-story building at 81 feet. So we're now thinking about a 5-story building at 60 feet. So you can see the 60-foot line kind of gives you an idea of where the building would stand there. This is just the concept of what the building might look like, but we're still working on it and it's still evolving. So this is a view looking east from Alum Rock. This is another view looking south. Here, this would be the driveway or garage entrance, and then down here would be the commercial space for the bike shop fronting Alum Rock. This is an aerial view looking west. And here we have another view looking north, and we have a large courtyard space, outdoor space for our residents to enjoy and to do some playground equipment, something like that for the kids to play on. And this last slide, Joe, you'll take.
Yeah, thank you, Marvel. In putting a project together, there are a number of challenges. They're not unique to charities. They're unique to affordable housing projects. Some of these are more predictable than others. Land availability and the cost of it is more readily planned for, although certain elements might cause land to increase in pricing. Parking is always a challenge because we're transitioning from a car-dependent society to a more public transit-dependent society. And then the material costs, which are largely out of our control, and as I think everyone is aware, construction costs have significantly increased in the last 18 to 24 months. I think the other thing to keep in mind is Charities Housing proposes a family-oriented and family-centered project. That's what we want to build, and we want to build as many number of units for families in need of a family-oriented project, because no matter how many activities we do, the need is always greater than anything that we can provide or can be financed. So as we work through the challenge, we work through the city of San Jose, both for their planning permit approvals and also for funding, and that has gotten more challenging over the last 6 months with the District 5 being put down as a lower priority in the new city siting policy than other districts. The County of Santa Clara is a major funder and supporter of projects. We need to clear with that. And then we have either federal and state money, primarily state, and that's a competitive process, so that the project we design and get approved has to do well in competing with projects all over the state of California so that we can get the best project built. It's a balancing act that we work hard to make you aware of in the neighborhood, is what it takes for us to get a project approved. And then we work hard to compete at the state level, city, county, and state level to make sure those happens. And we can cover some of the details and the parts where compromises are more complicated, a la parking as one of them. So Marvel, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you, Joe. So that pretty much wraps up our presentation. So that's where we're at with the project. These are the preliminary concepts that we're working with, and I'll turn it back to Trudy. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvel, Joe, and Lisa, for your presentation. We have quite a few questions, so we'll try to get through as many as possible. I'll call on you and ask you whether or not you'd like to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I will go ahead and ask whether or not you'd like for me to pose your question. So getting started, Pamela Gutierrez has a question about parking. Pamela, would you like to unmute yourself? Pamela? I'll go ahead and ask it in the interest of time, since we do have quite a few questions. Pamela's question is, where is the parking plan and how will it be addressed with the current surplus of cars?
So parking, right now, it's planned to be on the first floor of the building. The building will have a concrete podium, and then above it, well, we're looking at either an entirely concrete building, or above that first floor would be a wood frame building, and all the cars would go underneath the building. And depending on how much space we have and the arrangement, again, we're looking at 60 to 90 parking spaces.
Great, thank you, Marvel. Kimberly has a question for Joe regarding the choice of the site. Kimberly, would you like to unmute yourself, or would you like me to ask the question? Her question is, what led you to choose the site and what makes it a good site?
I think it's, as we pointed out in the presentation, it's a combination of ready access to public schools, and in this case also to some private schools. It has great neighborhood services in that emergency services are right there with the fire station. We have the library close by. There's public transit literally in front of the site. And we think we're in a growing area where the environment will continue to become better and better.
Thank you. We have quite a few questions regarding how this project relates to the currently unhoused population that we have in the area. How many units are going to be available to them, what their qualifications will be, etc. If you can go ahead and answer that generally, and if we haven't answered your question at the end, please go ahead and feel free to reinsert your question at the end.
So in terms of homeless population, our projects, so for instance, we have a project coming up at 1860 Alum Rock, which 50% of the units will be targeting rapid rehousing units. And that all is gone, all the residents will come through the county that qualify for that program, and that those type of households that are recently homeless or at risk for homeless. Joe or Lisa, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, I would just say, we, unhoused the homeless, obviously we work with the county for referrals to fill vacancies. But when we get closer to marketing, we really try to outreach the community. We will want to work with agencies around this community to help people get on the wait list, complete the paperwork, and see if they qualify for the units and house them. So we're really trying to, when we come into these areas, we're really trying to house the people in these areas that are unhoused.
Okay, great. Federico, you have a question? And there may be a problem with audio for our participants. So if you don't jump on, I'm going to go ahead and ask your question rather, which is there an overall vision for development of Alum Rock Avenue? Is there a business or specific neighborhood association developing and carrying out such a vision? I would like San Joseans to have a specific feeling in mind when they think Alum Rock, just like we all know what Willow Glen or Santana Row means.
So Alum Rock is part of an urban vision. There's actually two urban villages, one closer to downtown and then one further east. So each urban village has an urban village plan. I understand, I guess I'll call it the Western Alum Rock Urban Village just released a plan, I believe, that was put together by some San Jose State University graduate students and their professors. And then East Alum Rock currently doesn't have an urban village plan. Joe, do you know when that is supposed to be coming online or put together?
Yeah, I think, Marvel, that it's starting, the first part of it is starting in the late spring of next year. And I might comment, though, that planning staff in the city of San Jose has put guidance out that is we're planning any residential on Alum Rock, that they can do account that there will be a mix of commercial, retail, and residential, all in the urban village and all part of the vibrant new development that will be taking place. So it won't be just one phase of development or one type of development. It'll be all three.
Thank you. Catherine and Laura have similar questions, which has to do with how can someone on SSI making $991 afford an apartment in affordable housing?
So is that $991 a month?
Presumably, yes.
Here, let me pull up this slide to see where it falls in. 1 second. So sorry, I'm gonna have to do some math. So 991 would be 12,000. So unfortunately, their AMI would be, less than 30% AMI. They would still qualify for our units as they make less than 30% AMI, but the rent restrictions might not be as affordable. Many of our units do have project-based Section 8 vouchers, so then they would get subsidies that would help pay for the rent. I don't know, Lisa, do you want to add anything to that?
Sorry, I'm having problems getting off mute. Yeah, so first and foremost, I would encourage anyone who's looking for affordable housing or looks at this and realizes that, they can't afford this rent, is to pay attention to the Santa Clara Housing Authority's website and check in with them. They open up, they have 2 programs. They have housing choice vouchers, which means it's a voucher, a portable voucher that is subsidized, helps subsidize your rent, that you can pick where you live. And then they have project-based vouchers, which are project specific. And they're not constantly, but when they open up their list, I really encourage anyone to get on those lists, because that will be helpful. They do open them up every couple of years. So that would absolutely help for people who look at this. I understand you look at this and I mean, $794 for a studio at 30% is still high. But unfortunately, that's the way that our programs dictate it. So those would be it. But there are other agencies out there that can help subsidize other portions of the rent. What we call the tenant pays a portion, and then there's a subsidy portion. So I would encourage anyone that looks at this to look into those other options, and I can drop my information in the chat, and anyone can reach out to me and I can help them connect with more resources like that.
Great, Lisa, thank you for doing that. And it seems that we have fixed our glitch. You should be able to unmute yourselves now. So Rosalinda, would you like to ask your question? Rosalinda? Okay, we still have quite a few questions. So Rosalinda, I'm going to go ahead. Will tenants need to go through the housing authority?
Lisa, I'll hand that off to you.
Yeah, so only if this project ends up getting project-based vouchers, then we partner with the housing authority, and we would have to qualify for the PVV voucher through the housing authority, and then they would also have to qualify for the tax credit program on our end. So that would only in that case would we have to go through the housing authority. If we don't have the project-based vouchers, then no, they would not need to go through the housing authority to qualify for these.
Thank you. Quick question from Kimberly. I'll go ahead and ask. PCH, that's an acronym for?
Oh, PSH, that's permanently supportive housing. So that's, maybe Lisa, you can explain that best.
So permanent supportive housing is we work with the County of Santa Clara, and they provide us referrals to house chronically homeless individuals. And I mean, we actually did another project where they go out into the streets and they meet with them, they interview them, and they qualify them and bring them in to qualify for the units that are permanent supportive housing. They also offer a different layer of services to these units. That's a little more intense regarding like clinical services and more needs that somebody who's chronically homeless would need. So that comes with also a different layer of services as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Camelot, would you like to ask your question? You can unmute yourself. Camelot, I'll ask your question for you, and then Mark will be up next. Camelot's question is, again, what is the parking situation for the proposed new development on Alum Rock? Is Catholic Charities going to infuse the local services, for example, schools and libraries, with funding to help with all of these new residents?
So the parking situation, again, we're looking between 60 to 90 parking spaces currently. The other question, I believe, Lisa, do you know the answer to that? I would think no, but I'm not sure.
I apologize. What was the question? I was trying to type my information.
Let me jump in because I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, would Catholic Charities be providing supplemental financial support to schools and other public facilities? And the answer would be that no, Catholic Charities would not provide supplemental budget typically to a public entity. It will be working in the non-public side of supporting people, not in the tax-supported side of supporting people.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, after Mark, we have Olympia. Mark, go ahead if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Trudy. Yeah, I have a question. So, Santa Clara County is in extreme drought, yet we see the high density housing being developed throughout the county. How can we continue to meet our needs as we keep developing more high density housing?
Can
Joe, do
I
you want to?
take that, Marvel?
Yeah,
Um,
complex question.
a very serious question. Part of the answer to how we provide water for ourselves in Santa Clara County and throughout the state of California is obviously getting more and more challenging because of the global warming situation. For those of us in the looking to provide affordable housing, we buy the land, design the project, process it so it has its planning approvals, and then submit to the competition at the state level in order to get financed. We are not exempt. No development is exempt from whatever emergency measures would need to be taken to safeguard the health and safety of the people in the county from the water point of view. But until the agencies who are responsible for that water supply activity have chosen a path, it's not prudent for us to stop and wait, or all affordable housing activity would come to a halt. The water problem gets solved, and then suddenly it's 4 or 5 years before any of us could build. So what we do is we keep going on, and at the point of time when we go into construction 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we trust that the broad agencies responsible for water have done their job.
Thank you, Joe. Olympia is up next, and after that is Camelot. Olympia, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you, Trudy. So I'll ask all of my questions and make my statements first and then start. I'd first off like to start and say I'm here as a resident of this area of San Jose, longtime resident homeowner, and not in an official capacity as a City of San Jose employee. A couple things. First, I have concerns that there was no public input or community meeting prior to even any renderings or anything being done. I don't think this is the first thing that most people in this community that I've talked to want is an affordable housing complex along Alum Rock. I think people were looking more for grocery stores and other types of shops. So this may not fit long-term with all of the community members. And I do understand that you're providing housing for a certain portion of the community, but that does not, what you're providing does not benefit the complete community. Second, will the housing only be available to those that are in need of housing that are currently living in District 5? I think there's been an influx of people having to rent garages, 2, 3 families in a homes. So if it's gonna be there, that could help. Next, I'm seriously concerned about the parking. I think to say we'll figure out the parking marvel is just not realistic. You're not thinking about the impacts it will have to the neighborhood along Rose Avenue, on Lindell, as well as the shopping center that's located at Alum Rock and White. So I think that you guys, if you're saying your goal is to attract families, large families, that's what you said 4 times, I counted it tonight. There are gonna be people with 100 units with more than 1 car. Where are those people parking? There's no parking infrastructure in your plan. And second, there's not a lot of infrastructure when Joe spoke about neighborhood services. There's a fire station across the street, and it concerns me when you say that you're relying on the fire station as a neighborhood service. That means you're telling me that the folks that are coming to this building are either gonna have some kind of crime or violence associated with it. And I'm not sure if that's what you're alluding to, but that concerns me that part of your plan is built on the fact that Fire Station 2 is across the street. Second or third, I'm also concerned about the PSH housing. That tells me the types of families that are moving in are going to be high need families, which oftentimes can lead and have other impacts in the community. As many of the other PSH housing in this county has had, there's often other issues around violence and crime. And I think that I'd like to know, what is the long-term plan when you start to see that uptick in certain types of crime and violence come into the community? What is Catholic Charities going to be doing? And will there be a maximum number of people per unit? Meaning if there's a 1-bedroom, is that for 3 people or 5? It's a 3-bedroom, is that 10 or 20? I don't think you guys are thinking of the complete impact it will have along Alum Rock Avenue. For those of us that need to drive through Alum Rock Avenue to get home, for people that want to travel up Alum Rock or this area. I think Joe mentioned people go to the grocery stores. We're in a desert, a grocery store desert. So I'm just very concerned that maybe this project hasn't been well thought through. And I'm hoping that this is an initial meeting and this is not a final decision. So thank you this evening for the presentation.
Thank you for your questions. I guess where to start? I guess I'll start with the one question that came to my mind was the PSH. We're still looking at what the population reservations will be for PSH. There might be some PSH units. There might be a handful of rapid rehousing units. But again, we're looking at a large family project. So, I mean, that's still being decided. In terms of parking, again, I'll say, we're working on it between 60 and 90 units. We generally find that for affordable units, affordable units, families have, or households have less cars on average. Trying to think what the other questions were. We've had community meetings previous to this one with RVAC, and we're still in the early stages of this project. We're hoping to collaborate with the community to find a project that that works and benefits the community at large.
Just one last thing, if you could make sure that you reach out not just to RVAC. They don't speak for everyone that utilizes Alum Rock or lives in that area. There are multiple other stakeholder groups, so that may also help as you go through this process. So I will tell you, you probably don't have as much support as you think you have. There's been a lot of discussion online about this and other neighborhood groups as well. This is not a priority for most people who live in this section of Alum Rock. We have multiple projects already going in on Alum Rock, and it seems unfair that we would get stuck with another one. So if you guys could just make sure that you're reaching out to all neighborhoods and stakeholder groups and thinking about the long-term impact that bringing in a large apartment complex can have on the surrounding communities and neighborhoods. Because once that building is built and it starts to impact neighborhoods, it impacts all of the other residents. And I don't want you to think your job is done, because then the problems other neighbors have to deal with. The vehicles, they have to deal with other issues that are happening. So just if you could think about that, and if you could truly think about what other services are in the area, I wouldn't use the fire department as the selling point. I think the library can be overrun with 200 additional people. It's a small library. There's not a lot of stores in the area. Most people don't take public transit on Alum Rock. That's not a big thing, and I don't think putting an apartment complex there is going to make public transit become popular, unfortunately.
And Marvel, because I've seen this question amongst a number of questions in the Q&A, maximum occupancy per unit?
I'll hand that off to Lisa.
Yeah, so there is a max. So what we do for all the bedroom sides, it's 2 + 1. What that means is 2 people per bedroom plus 1 person for like the living room. So for example, for a 1 bedroom, the maximum is 3 people. So there is a max. We do enforce it, and we do manage very closely by the lease. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Next up, we have Camelot, and after Camelot, we have Peggy. Go ahead, Camelot, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I actually can't see my question anymore, but I know I had a couple. One of them was, is every single unit a low income unit, or is it only like 30 to 50% of them are low income and then the rest of them will be a higher monthly rent?
100% of our units are affordable. We do have a few units that are staff units. They're full-time staff units for our property management team. But yeah, so 100% of our units are low income. So there is no market rate units.
And Camelot, if I can lend you a hand here, I've got your questions in front of me. Is this a short-term shelter, or are these long-term units? And are the residents required to participate in the services from Catholic Charities?
So this would be long-term, and I don't think, or maybe Lisa, you can answer better about the, I don't think they're required to participate with the Catholic Charities.
They're not Catholic Charities. So there's two things that I saw her question too, and I think it was more, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kelma, it was related to the permanent supportive housing units. So no services are required, but for the permanent supportive housing, they do, they're more intense. So they're different. Catholic Charities, if there's no permanent supportive housing at the building, the services are a little different than when you add permanent supportive housing to that. And I think did I answer the question? Because I feel like I forgot one part of that.
You basically answered the question. So I've worked with Catholic Charities before. I work with Gardner, sometimes, doing medical for them, and we are sometimes at your locations. So that being said, is that, I know, I'm not saying that everybody is this population, but I do know a portion of the population that may go into these units. And, sometimes they're not going to want to get jobs. They're not going to get off of Section 8 housing. And so, some places say that you have to utilize our services to try and, become a better member of society to get off the social services. And so it sounds like there's not going to be any requirement for that here.
Not currently that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again. Peggy, you're next up, and after that is Robert. Peggy, would you like to unmute?
Yeah, I did. I have a couple questions. One's actually a comment, and it is absolutely true that we're a food desert. The closest real supermarkets, the one is up on McKee, and I'm not sure what the connecting street is, but for somebody living at this house, there is no transportation up the hill. So that would be a hard thing for them to get to unless they have a car. So I understand that you're also looking at this as a place for people to commute by bike or bus. And that would be catching, I should know the name of the bus, 25, I think it is. And they'd have to catch the bus from that unit up along White up to Story. And so it's just not, people will do it, of course, you need food, but I am concerned that, we're thinking about bringing more people in here and we don't have any really good grocery stores, not even for the people that are currently living here right now. So I don't know what you could do if you were thinking about building this, but that's an issue. The other thing I wanted to ask is if you were, trying to promote the bike culture, well, what's going to be done with the street? The street is currently not safe for biking. I would not bike up Alum Rock because there's not any protected bike lanes, lots of traffic. And it's absolutely true. When I first heard about this unit going in, I thought about all the traffic coming out, in and out of the apartment place. So, learning and thinking about the traffic issues, whether it's by bike with protected bike lanes, making more of the services, the buses. Like I used to be able to catch a bus from my house on Alum Rock. They took up the bus from where I live. So, just relying on VTA that keeps minimizing the amount of services provided to people on the east side, I think could be problematic. And so I would just hope that you think about that. Thank you,
Peggy.
Thanks, Peggy. Joe, maybe you can respond to that. I think the one question was about, or I guess it was more commentary, I think, thinking on it. Or Joe?
You're talking about the distance to the two shopping centers at White and Story?
Yeah,
Right.
the two grocery stores.
From our perspective, the distance from our site to those sites is well within the average distance of available grocery stores to almost all areas of San Jose. There are two major centers there from our perspective, not just one, and they both have active grocery and active drugstores, plus a lot of other active shops, very successful, and not many vacancies. So we looked at that as a positive for our prospective residents.
And any comments concerning the lack of bike lanes going up Alum Rock?
As the Alum Rock Urban Village develops its plan, it's my understanding that the Alum Rock corridor will become and it's going to be down the road in the future. It will not be immediate, and will probably come after we would be completed construction. But it will have a full spectrum of transportation from bikes, cars, and partly it has buses right now on the western portion of the Alum Rock Urban Village.
Thank you. Next up is Robert, and after Robert, we have Janet Amaro. Robert, go ahead. Let's see, did we lose Robert? His question is, this does seem like an excellent location for new housing. I wonder what organizations might be nearby to help new neighbors integrate into the neighborhood. The library? Are there others? It's so hard to get settled when moving. Would be great to shave off some help from neighboring groups and organizations.
Thanks, Robert. We agree. We believe it's also a great location for our proposed project. And, if there are any community groups that would be helpful to our future residents to move in that, we would love to connect them.
Thank you, Marvel. And Janet, and after Janet is Mauricio. Janet, go ahead. Janet's previous question was what was the max occupancy? So I'm assuming that was answered satisfactorily.
Yeah, that was answered. Sorry, I was on mute.
No problem.
Given that the proposal is a zero lot line design that includes a garage driveway that feeds directly onto Alum Rock Avenue, is Charities Housing aware that the city of San Jose plans to reduce that section of Alum Rock from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction as part of their Better Bike Plan 2025?
Yes, I think that's part of the new design developments that's coming in online or came online.
Correct. You can go onto the City of San Jose's website and look that up. And what I'm trying to understand is, have we considered or done any traffic studies that think about the impact of, 60 to 90 vehicles, of some percentage of that, a significant percentage of that, exiting Alum Rock onto a 1-lane road, making a U-turn at Alum Rock because there's no way to make a left turn out of that location, and then heading back up toward the freeway to go to presumably where there are employers, because there are significantly no employers in this area.
Today we have not done a traffic impact study for the property.
I highly recommend you do this, because currently when Alum Rock is closed to 1 lane in either direction due to street work, the Alum Rock backs up to white.
I can add some perspective to this. We look at the traffic planning that's being done by the city of San Jose, and the Alum Rock Urban Village, as part of that urban village plan, will have a major traffic plan put together for it, because it's not just our site that will be the subject of potential development, but all the sites along Alum Rock, so that there's a traffic density and a traffic efficiency plan coming as part of the urban village plan. One of the things that we looked at on our site that I thought was positive is that, because it has both a positive and negative, I take your comment. But the positive part about it is it does not distribute traffic immediately into an adjacent residential neighborhood. There's no back door in the sense out of our site. Our traffic will, as you described, interact with Alum Rock, and of all the streets in the area that's going to be programmed to cover those contingencies, Alum Rock is certainly the one that will get the largest budget and the most attention, and hopefully be the most successful in handling that.
I have a follow-up question. Are there plans to limit the number of vehicles per unit?
Lisa, maybe you can answer that as a property management question.
Yes, normally we, it depends on how many parking spaces are made available, but it's one parking space per unit. And then if we have extras after that, then, we come up with a system, whether it's a waiting list or a lottery for households to have that additional space.
Thank you, Marvel and Lisa. We still have 75 questions queued up. And we still have one speaker that we want to hear from. So we're going to take a few more questions. We'll go through the next presentation, and hopefully the current panelists will stay until we wrap up at 8:15. Does that sound agreeable to the current panelists?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we'll have to take a few more questions. Mauricio is up next, and then Linda is after that. Mauricio, would you like to unmute?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'm a long-term resident here, Alum Rock, and my concern is similar to other residents in the area, the impact that this has on services, especially having this high-density housing across the street from the fire department, which really needs access for emergency vehicles going up the hill, and then the impact that this will have basically in the whole community with poor parking. What plans does the panel have to really move this project somewhere else in the city?
Joe, maybe you can answer this. I mean, today we're still working on this project. We like the site, and we're committed to it.
I'm not sure I understood the thrust of the question. Could you repeat it again, Mauricio?
Yeah, so my question is, do you have a plan B to move this project somewhere else that is not Alum Rock?
Okay, so I understand the question now. When we pick a site, we are doing that in a number of places in San Jose simultaneously, so that right now we have projects. We have land tied up for a project in District 1, District 10, District 9, District 6. And we select those sites because we think there's a need for affordable housing in all those locations. We don't look at a site as, well, if this doesn't work out, we go somewhere else. We look at sites and believe strongly that we have a good site in each of the ones we've selected, both here in District 5 and in the other districts I mentioned.
So my follow-up question there is, have you done the right urban development planning and traffic studies to see that this doesn't impact local residents? The other thing is that seeing building with 5-story is really not seamless to the architectural design of the avenue.
We certainly will. We will conduct all the planning that is necessary and required by the city of San Jose. That's true for every project. And part of what I think is being discussed broadly is the level of density as we develop in San Jose, so that the projects that I mentioned in the other locations throughout the city are either the same height building as we are talking about in our presentation tonight, or in 2 cases, they're actually taller.
Thank you, Joe. Next up for our last question for this segment, and then again, we will come back to these panelists. We have Linda Haro.
Hi, everybody. First of all, before I ask my question, I just want to make a statement about the parking. I live on the firehouse side of Alum Rock, behind James Lick High School. And right there, there's a little frontage road that is constantly full of vehicles. Okay. And you can't even see to get onto Alum Rock because of people parking there. With this project going in across the street and only one parking space per unit, where do you think people are going to park? And I know I've heard everybody else's comments about the parking. It's a problem. It's going to be a problem. The other thing is what Mauricio was saying. How is it going to affect the small businesses on either side of that project? You know, you've got the paint store and whatever else. There's several things there. It doesn't match. It doesn't match up at all. And it's going to look a little bit out of sorts. So what is going to happen to these small businesses?
From our perspective, you know, we will be adding more customers, residents to the area, and you know, the businesses would benefit from that. In terms of the size of the project, you know, we looked at a bunch of different sizes, and really, of you know, we found a 5-story building to be where we could make the project work from an economic perspective. And I don't know, Joe, maybe do you have anything else to add there?
Well, the question of density is a serious one because the city and the state and the funding sources want to see more units concentrated in density, not less. So we balance off a whole series of, if you like, competing interests so that we can produce the best project we can, given the funding sources that are available and the civic planning, the city planning, and what their goals are for a proper development. As I indicated, the density we're proposing here and the height we're proposing here is very comparable or on the lower side than what is being worked on throughout the city of San Jose.
Can I make just one more comment? Will this be put to a vote to the community, this project? I know it's still under planning, or at least you're saying it's still under planning, but will it be put to a vote?
And by that, you mean that the community members, such as the people here tonight, would get a vote on whether the project's approved or not?
Well, the whole neighborhood. You know, like I said, I live across the street, and it's behind James Lick. It's like a 4-block radius.
Yeah.
Our streets are already full of vehicles, and I can just see a mess.
I guess the answer is that the process that the city of San Jose puts in place, which is supported by county law and state law, requires approvals beyond just the immediate community. We try to interact with the immediate community so voices can be heard either in favor or in opposition of the project, which is part of what we're doing this evening. But the actual legal approvals are done at the governmental level, not at the local community level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Linda. We're going to take just a few more questions. We will end the meeting at 8:15. And we're sorry that we're not able to get to everybody's questions. As you can see that there's still quite a bunch there. But let's go ahead and get started. If Efren is still there, Efren, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, there you are. Go ahead.
Yes, you said the place you proposed is a long-term family for them to stay. But by average, how long do they stay?
You know, it ranges, but there are people who've been in our properties for many, many years. But I would say the average is between 5 to 10 years that someone stays in the units.
Okay, and my follow-up question is also relating to the parking issue. Say a family's been living in your unit, and say the kid grew up and they have they need a car. And think of like a large scale in your unit. I don't see how it is fair that you use the lottery-based system to make the parking available for future younger generations.
Thank you. I mean, we try to do it, you know, when there's extra spots there, parking's always an issue and everybody wants the extra spot. So we try to do it as fair as we can. But thank you for your input. I'll keep it in mind to see if we could find some other ways to figure out how to assign the additional parking fairly.
Yeah, yes, of course. It's not just
Thank you, Efren. Up next, we're going to have Matthew, and after Matthew, we'll have Pamela back again. Matthew, go ahead. Unmute yourself. Matthew, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so my question was just with regards, you guys seem to have a pretty wide range of developments all over the Bay Area, and you had mentioned that this one was really going to focus on, I think, families. And my question is, what kind of guarantees that we have that this one is going to be more of working class families staying there versus some of your other developments like the Renascent, which would be really kind of scary to see something like that across the street from a high school.
Lisa, could you cover this in terms of, how we, go ahead.
So like I said, when I said in the beginning, I don't know if you're on, when the property gets ready, we do, every property has an individualized marking criteria and tenant selection plan. So whatever our target population is, that's our target. This is a little different. Renascent Place is all studios and it's designed, for permanent supportive housing. We don't know if that's it. We're going that route here, if we're going to have permanent supportive housing here in this building. So the chances are having another 160 units of permanent supportive housing is unlikely. And maybe Marvel or Joe can chime in as if we've even have finalized putting permanent supportive housing units inside in this project.
We currently don't have any plans to. If we did, it would be probably a handful of the units. But no, we don't have plans for that right now.
Yeah, many of our other larger sites, family sites, they don't have the permanent supportive housing in them as well.
Okay. And then the only other question I really had was about parking, but I think that's been kind of talked about already quite a bit. So it doesn't seem as though the number of spaces you guys have allotted is reasonable for the amount of cars that are probably going to be associated to the development based on the number of units you guys are looking at. So that's more of a commentary, I think, than a question.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. It looks like we're jumping to Robert, and then on to Jesse. Robert, if you can unmute.
Yes, thank you, Trudy. I was wondering if you were planning any affordable housing developments in Evergreen District 8. I did not see any on your map. Also, I was wondering if when you are working with the community, do you ever work with the community before you select a site and go into escrow so that you can use the community's wisdom into selecting the proper site? Love to have you come to Evergreen and talk to us.
Currently, we don't have anything in Evergreen. I know we're actively looking throughout San Jose, including District 8. So if sounds like you're suggesting maybe reaching out to your community, is that right, Robert?
I'm vaguely familiar with the city's housing siting policy that's being adopted or already adopted. So yes, I think it's good to have a discussion early on using the community's wisdom in terms of the site selection rather than going into escrow and being committed to a site before talking to the community.
Marvel, I think that's a good idea, and I think I could be on point, Robert, to have you reach out to me or me reach out to you and kind of talk you through what our objectives are and what our processes are in terms of looking at land.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Ryan. Ryan, if you'd like to unmute yourself. There you go, Ryan. And then next up, we have Maria Perez.
We're here. We're here. Hello, can you hear us?
Sounds very windy behind you, but yes.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to I know that you guys definitely haven't said anything if this is a done project that's going to be happening. Can that be answered, yes or no?
Well, we're committed to the site and putting a project there. It's still in the very early stages of development.
Okay, and do you guys live in the area to understand that this project is not going to work? Because there's going to be a lot of congestion. There's tons of stores here that are shut down. We have nothing open left over here, and yet you guys are building this complex. That doesn't even make sense. I mean, I don't know where this is going. And if there's in the future, is there going to be any more meetings with this?
Yes, well, we'll continue our community outreach for the project. Joe, maybe you can chime in about the shops and whatnot that Ryan is.
Let's see, I'll second your commitment, Marvel, to continue to have meetings and D5 United or RVAC, whichever groups want to host this and put things together, we'd be happy to do that. What I really think will happen with the retail and commercial along Alum Rock is that when the Alum Rock East Urban Village Plan is undertaken and completed, you'll see a renewal of activity in this area of Alum Rock. Closer down to Capitol, there's been much more commercial development coming along. And in fact, the Taco Bell that used to be on the site we have is now farther down toward the light rail station. Those kind of dynamics will continue, especially after the properties have had their city planning done for them.
Okay, and then how do we find out that the meetings are going to be happening, when and where? How do we get in contact with that?
Well, certainly you'll find District 5 United advertising any additional meetings, and then I'm sure RVAC will also promote their meetings undoubtedly on Facebook and Nextdoor and other distribution lists, social media distribution lists.
And then just out of curiosity, I don't know if you answered this at all, but the area where Orchard Supply is at, is that also be taken down, or is that just the in-between piece that you guys are thinking of?
I can speak to that. I originally reached out and tried to contact the ownership of the Orchard Supply site. I did reach them and they said they had plans for the property, were not interested in selling. I don't know what those plans are or the timing of it.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And next up we have, I apologize, I called you Maria earlier, Marla, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So as a longtime resident of Alum Rock, I've grown up there my entire life. I'm not sure, and I think as one of the panelists also stated, yeah, there will be an uptick once this COVID thing ends of businesses, which also includes 4 schools that we have in the immediate area, which will hugely impact traffic. I mean, even now, with COVID going on, Alum Rock is immensely populated. Overly populated. It's difficult to get in and out of my area. I live directly across the street from where the proposed project is being put in. That's that's an additional 700 or however many units that it's going to impact us drastically. Parking is already, I mean, we get a ton of cars parked on my block, and I can't even imagine the overflow that people would use my block for when they have to cross the street because they will not find parking. It is not true. Low-income people, they do have many cars. Families are not a 1-car or 2-car system. And if there's no plan for parking, I mean, we need retail. We need grocery stores here. We have a few. We've got one Lucky's and we've got Cardenas nearby. Other than that, we don't have anything. We've been asking for either a Trader Joe's, a Sprouts, something, that would better suit our neighborhood. And this, I'm just shocked that, community is not considered. If we were evergreen or Willow Glen, this would not fly. And it's just being said, oh, it's already done. I don't think that's fair to those of us that have lived here. Most of the people that are planning these projects are not in the area. They don't understand what we're already going through. How is this going to help us? It's not. It's just going to make things worse for us. So there really isn't a question. It's more of a comment.
Thank you, Marla, for your comment. We'll take it into consideration. I don't know, Joe, if you have anything you want to add to any issues.
No.
I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. I want to thank all of our panelists, Teresa, who's left, Lisa, Marvel, and Joe. Once again, thank you. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll be in touch with our next meeting.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.